What's going on, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Leem channel. If you're new to my channel, I greatly appreciate you all for being here. I would also greatly appreciate it if you liked, commented, and subscribed, and donated, and checked out my merch. Links down below. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into this video because it's a bit of a doozy and it just keeps getting worse. I went over this before, but let's just recap. So it says here that this is the judge that sent Karmelo Anthony to Louisiana. If you don't know, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't been keeping up with this, this is not only the judge who sent Karmelo to Louisiana, but this is the same judge who pardoned Karmelo, gave him a slap on the wrist and put him on house arrest. It's just, the whole thing is a complete catastrophe. And what I find really intriguing is this video right here by Benny Johnson. So I thought, let's check this out together. So here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, Karmelo Anthony did just that. He's a young man with a 1.0 GPA who was at a track meet, who took out a knife and decided to stab in the heart Austin Metcalf, killing him, died in his brother's arms. Self-defense is his claim. He's admitted that he did it. Ladies and gentlemen, he said that he was defending himself. Hear from Austin Metcalf, the 4.0 honor student who's about to go play collegiate football. Okay, let's go ahead and look at some of the evidence here and see if that stands to reason. The easiest evidence would be video evidence. Now, in a world of cell phones, cameras, filming everything all the time, I assume there's going to be some footage that comes out. In fact, I know there's going to be footage that comes out, because that footage is already slowly being released here. Now, Austin Metcalf is dead. His killer, Karmelo Anthony, is facing capital punishment charges in Texas. Now, the way it works in Texas is because Karmelo Anthony was 17 at the time of the murder, he can't face the death penalty. There's been Supreme Court rulings on this. He's not allowed to be death penalty punishment. But he can spend the better part of the rest of his life in prison for this. He is being tried as an adult, and capital murder is the highest possible murder charge in the state of Texas. And guess what? There's footage. School refuses to release video of Austin Metcalf fatal stabbing. Wow, would you look at that? School officials in Frisco, Texas have confirmed that they do have surveillance video showing the murder. Still, they haven't released the footage to the public. Texas school won't release the video. They have the stabbing on a surveillance tape. Now, why would this be important? Well, you'd obviously hinge the entire...
And real quick, ladies and gentlemen, just shout out to Benny Johnson for covering all this again. That's the thing. Like, it's not a surprise. This is why I said, starting off, ladies and gentlemen, that it's not a surprise that Karmelo is moving to Louisiana. It's not a surprise that he's moving from where he's at in Texas to Louisiana. Because these people cannot take accountability for anything. I know there's a lot being said, ladies and gentlemen, but, I just see this as a immoral murder. That's exactly what it is, and with anybody, it could have been anybody. It doesn't only pertain to one person, one ethnic group, one this, one that, I just, that's how I see it, but let me know what you think in the comments. But, it's just a senseless murder. It's still awful. It's wrong. I'm not condoning it. I'm just saying, I'm not saying I'm on Karmelo's side. I'm just saying that, he's just a cold-blooded murderer, and it's wrong, and what they're doing is wrong. The justice system in the United States of America is jacked. We saw this with President Trump. They tried rigging him. They tried rigging so many people on the Trump administration, or, just in general, who aren't believing the lies from people like the killer Karmelo Anthony family, or the George Fentanyl Floyd family, or people, whoever was supporting him. And if you don't support them, then you're just a menace. You're the menace to society. See how things have just eerily flipped, ladies and gentlemen. It's absolutely crazy out here, but it gets worse. So let's keep watching.
Higher case on whether Austin Metcalf was in some way behaving violently, and maybe you could get a lower sentence or something like that. There's going to be no justification for his murder, right? And unless Carmelo Anthony can prove, like in our state, right, in the state of Florida, you have castle law. You're not required to retreat. If somebody's threatening your life, you're not required to retreat. Same thing in Texas. If he can prove, if his defense can prove that his life was in danger, you'd have to have a situation where he thought his life was threatened to be able to make that case at all. Okay? As we know now, he was just in the wrong tent. He was told he was in the wrong tent. The end. So you'd want, obviously, that footage to show someone behaving very aggressively and threatening the life, right, of Carmelo Anthony. It's almost like they're deliberately hiding the footage because they know it would make somebody look bad and it doesn't fit the narrative that they're trying to push. Remember, it all hinges on this whole self-defense claim. Well, ladies and gentlemen, some people are starting to get the footage. Reporters are starting to get access to the footage. And they're starting to write articles like this, which are not good for Carmelo Anthony. I watched the footage of the race crime that split America. What I saw shocked me, and it's going to flip the case. It was just after 10 a.m. on April 2nd. Typical high school track meet. Students were warming up and stretching. Spectators, students took cover under a tent. The atmosphere was calm and uneventful. And then suddenly bloodshed. In a matter of seconds, 17-year-old Carmelo Anthony fatally stabbed 17-year-old Austin Metcalf, transforming the rain into a crime scene. On Monday, the Daily Mail became one of 2 news organizations granted access to the surveillance footage of the deadly incident, a killing that shocked the nation and ignited race debates. The 40-minute surveillance video, recorded from a stationary camera opposite side of the football field, captures the 10 minutes leading up to the attack and the desperate efforts by Metcalf's twin brother and others to save his life before paramedics arrived. Metcalf, a student at Memorial High School, was stabbed after confronting Anthony, who attended Centennial High School, sitting under a tent, the team he was not affiliated with. Okay? Fine. Anthony has admitted to the stabbing, but maintains that it was self-defense. The truth will come out. Initially, Frisco police said the altercation between the teens led to a violent encounter. However, the footage reviewed by the Daily Mail at the Frisco Independent School District's headquarters shows no sign of a physical confrontation between the two prior to the stabbing. The Daily Mail did not detect anything that indicates chaos that was about to ensue. Like, let's say, I'm not a lawyer, but let's just assume that you saw punches being thrown, right? Somebody was being hit. Somebody felt like their life was being threatened, okay? There are states where you don't have a duty to retreat legally. If you feel like your life's being threatened, you can protect yourself. Again, Texas is one of those states. Castle law, if you feel like somebody's entering your home or somebody breaks into your house, you have a right to defend yourself. You have no idea what they're bringing into your house. You can take the matter into your own hands and you'll get an award for it, right? That's how it works here, how it works in Texas. But you're going to have to really have solid evidence that you were in a life or death situation here. Because what you did was you gave a death sentence to Austin Metcalf without a trial. So you're going to have to prove that he was really ready to kill you and that he wasn't just, saying things you didn't like, which is, according to all available evidence, what happened. Austin Metcalf came in, told killer Carmelo Anthony to get the hell out of his tent. Anthony didn't like that disrespect. And so, like any honor student, he just pulled out the extremely sharp tactical knife from his backpack and stabbed someone to death. Based on perceived verbal insult. That's exactly what happened here. Trust me. Okay, trust me. All available evidence points to that. Anyway, look at this. They saw the footage. Daily Mail did not detect anything that indicated chaos was about to ensue. Strict guidelines were enforced for viewing the footage. Reporters were only permitted to take handwritten notes, were barred from capturing or republishing stills. The districts allowed limited release because the students' identities are not easily discernible in the video. Captured by a high-angle camera positioned near the press box typically used for football broadcasts, the camera shows the tent at the top left of the screen. Students are seen sitting idly by it, waiting for the competitions to start. It's a helpful little diagram here. Here's the tent location, and here's where the body was moved after the stabbing. You can see here, obviously, the crime scene there at the tent. Austin Metcalf dies in his brother's arms, an honor student, potentially to play on his way to play college football. Anthony's family moved to a mansion $900,000 mansion. And Karmelo Anthony has been rewarded for this action. It's completely evil. Seemingly out of nowhere, it becomes apparent the moment has happened when armed Anthony attacked Metcalf. The stabbing itself is not visible on camera. The reaction is immediate. Students are seen fleeing under the tent. Police later confirmed that Anthony fled the scene, cannot be clearly identified in the footage. Moments later, two people can be seen carrying the injured Metcalf down the bleachers to a walkaway at the bottom seating area. The individuals included some adults rushing to his side to help. As the rain begins to fall, Metcalf's visibly cradled in the arms of his twin brother, bleeding heavily as they await emergency services. His two sons were together. It took only 10 minutes for the ambulance to arrive after the stabbings. The paramedics are seen at the gate near the end zone, driving to the yard line. As they took a stretcher out and back of the vehicle, they seemed to realize they needed to take another route to the gravely wounded Metcalf. They walked back towards the end zone through another entrance to the bleachers. The medics eventually reached Metcalf. However, the treatment administered is obscured by the ambulance. Police are seen covering the area near the tent with a blue tarp, presumably to preserve evidence in the pouring rain. Representatives from the Frisco Police Department did not immediately reply for requests. The ambulance with Metcalf inside did not leave the stadium until 10:27, nearly half an hour after the stabbing. He was pronounced dead at the hospital. Police can be seen investigating under the tent. Final few minutes of the video before it ends. Here's all I'm asking in this situation. Justice. That's it. I don't need extra special punishment. You just need to try it the same way you should try anything. Justice is blind. You need to simply dole out the punishment. It just doesn't matter what was said. And clearly, according to this report, which is the only detailed report I've seen from a credentialed reporter who's seen the video, there is zero evidence of anybody acting in a manner where you'd assume that your life is under threat, which is the only possible defense here. That someone was threatening my life, right? That I was about to be killed, therefore I had to fight back, right? Case closed. Karmelo Anthony was stealing, instigated the fight, and stabbed Austin Metcalf to death. I hope he rots in jail. They still haven't released the camera footage, by the way. It's been 6 weeks. It showed Austin Metcalf. If it showed Austin Metcalf as the aggressor, it would have been released 6 minutes after the stabbing. You know that as a matter of fact. Why don't they just release it? Why don't they just send it, right? They could have released this footage and stopped the violence and misinformation, but they didn't. Austin Metcalf is a hero who tried to save others from a scumbag who flashes a weapon. Second-degree murder should be the charge, though. Ladies and gentlemen, they'll eventually have to release it because it's going to be shown at trial. All available reporting says they're going to use this at trial, along with, of course, the firsthand witnesses. Lock them up. Lock them up. Capital murder charges. Can't get the death sentence, but you can get he can get the option for parole. I think Karmelo Anthony, he's 18 right now. He'd be like 70. It'd be like 50 years in prison.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Again, shout out to Benny Johnson for covering all this information and keeping us updated. I just want to get my thoughts on it. Again, this is he's 100% right, This is why they didn't show the video. This is why they didn't, really release anything. They didn't really give anything. They had to run quickly to, well, it was self-defense. And no, it was not. No, it was not. Because if it was, they would just release the video and Karmelo would be cleared. And we would have been like, oh, okay, well, Austin Metcalf is in the wrong. Nope. They didn't release the video. They're hesitating. They're waiting. They're only releasing it to certain people. It's a mess, And this is why I said in the beginning, these people, it's just a matter of lack of accountability, That's how I see it. But overall, ladies and gentlemen, we know these people are corrupt. It's a corrupt system. So protect your family. Stay safe out there. And those are my thoughts. So please let me know what you all think down below in the comments. I will see you all in the next video. Peace.